for joining us on our program, Political Arena, right here from the City of Warri, Delta Rainbow Television. Welcome to Monday's edition of the program. Christy Jaho Ayenoko, it's my name. Political Arena is a program that captures issues at the front burner of the polity. We look at recent issues, we bring in the guest, and we x-ray and analyze such issues with an objective of, amongst many other, of finding solutions result-oriented as the case demands. Now, for quite a while now, the polity has been heated right here in Nigeria, and of course, build up to the 2023 election. That has been very, very almost as far as political discourse are concerned, and even social religious discourses, the issue of the NSAS protest, especially the NSAS judicial panel reports that have been submitted and recommendations made. Well, we would be looking at that majorly today in the program arena. Welcome. The program, we would like to remind you, runs 3 times a week: Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We crave your indulgence for bringing you the program. Today's edition behind schedule due to circumstances beyond our immediate control. Do bear with us. In a moment, we shall tell you more of what to expect. That's after the news roundup with Karu. Over to you, Karu.
Welcome to the news roundup segment on the program Political Arena. I am Ogene Karu Ofuba. The Federal Capital Territory chapter of the People's Democratic Party on Saturday endorsed former Senate President Bukola Saraki as its preferred presidential candidate for the 2023 general elections. Saraki's adoption came on the heels of similar endorsement by the state's Benue, Nasarawa, Niger State chapter within the last 7 days. Shortly before the announcement, party leaders from FCT observed that the party needs a candidate from the North Central to win the 2023 presidency. They argue that the North Central Zone deserves a shot of the presidency because, despite the immense sacrifice made by sons and daughters of the zone in order to build the PDP, restore and sustain democracy since 1999, no one from the zone has been considered for the top job. During a endorsement meeting, a chieftain of the party from the FCT IRG, Ogadoma, moved the motion for the adoption of Saraki as the choice of the North Central for the PDP presidential ticket. The motion was seconded and unanimously adopted by all present. The chief whip of the Senate, Senator Orji, has received newly elected officials of the People's Democratic Party in his Aso Rock residence in Abuja. The team was led by National Secretary of the PDP, Senator Samuel Ayawu, alongside other newly elected officials of the party. Ayawu, a former senator, and newly elected officials of the PDP arrived at the residence of Senator representing Abia North Central District at precisely 12:28 p.m. Ayawu, who won a native blue native attire, was welcomed by Kalu's associate and then led straight with his executive to meet the principal officer of the upper chamber. On sighting one another, both men exchanged pleasantries and embraced each other, then proceeded for indoor meeting. As the meeting progressed, other executives of the party arrived in tents at Kalu's residence to join the meeting. The visit came amid strong talk that the former Abia State Governor was being positioned for the 2023 presidency to succeed the President Muhammadu Buhari. An Abia State chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, Dr. Isaac Nkoli, has cautioned the party against readmitting the Senate Chief Whip, Senator Ozzy Kalu. This call came on the heels of visit by high-powered PDP delegation led by the incoming National Secretary of the party, Senator Samuel Ayawu, at his Asu Villa, Abuja home. Nkoli alleged that Kalu is in a desperate move to the party, having discovered that his days in the All Progressive Congress are numbered. The PDP chieftain alleged that the Senate whip has been reaching out to key political holders at both the state and the national level, begging them to allow him return to the party. He, however, said Senator Kalu's return to PDP is not in the best interest of the party. Nkoli advised the leadership of the People's Democratic Party, both in Abia and the national level, to be careful not to allow the senator to return to the party because his return will destroy PDP. Earlier, a delegation of newly elected members of the National Working Committee of the PDP who paid a courtesy visit call on Kalu in his residence in Abuja within the precinct of Aso Rock urged him to make an informed choice regarding the 2023 general elections. All Progressive Congress has confirmed the actual number of ward executives that resigned, saying 80% as widely reported in the media. Speaking on behalf of the party, Publicity Secretary Moses Kiarim noted that the two wards were affected in the resignation with a cabinet size of 27 persons, each stressing that the number is insignificant. He made his call at the party secretariat while fielding questions from journalists on the grounds of APC in prosecuting one Muhammad Yahayari, a social media aide of Senator Danjuma Gonje. Recall that on Tuesday, Gonje's aide was remanded by the Chief Magistrate Court till 6th December for allegedly posting forceful and insightful disturbance that over 80% of executives in Yamato Demba has resigned, following perceived disrespect to Gonje by the incumbent governor. Those that resigned are 4 from Kwando and 2 in Chinga ward. Danjuma brought them to the cabinet, so they felt their loyalty is to him. If you situate the report of the social media aide, he maliciously sent out the information to create disunity and disaffection in the party. And that's where we wrap it up on the news roundup. Is back to Christy.
All right, you're welcome again. The program is the Political Arena, reaching you live from Delta Rainbow Television. Now, October last year, precisely, Nigerians to have you again on the program Political Arena, Monday's edition. Now, we told you at the introduction of our program before the news roundup that we shall be focusing on the NSAS Judicial Panel report, which has been submitted to the authorities that be. However, the submission of that report has been made with a groundswell of reactions right from the United Nations, the US, Amnesty International, Civil Liberties Organization, and so many others have urged the federal government of Nigeria to ensure that the recommendations and the panel reports are duly executed. Now, the panel made a total of 32 recommendations, which included sanctioning of the officers of the Nigeria Army and the Nigerian Police Force who participated in shooting, injuring, and killing of unarmed protesters at the Lekki toll gate on October 20 and 21, 2020. That's as far as Lagos State is concerned. And there are developments of more robust engagement between the youth and the government, setting up of a standing committee tribunal to deal with cases of violations of human rights by security agencies, among so many other recommendations. Most interesting is that of the Lagos State, perhaps no thanks to the Lekki toll gate incident, where a white paper committee was set up again to review the panel, the judicial panel report, or what. And the Honorable Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, had come out at different times to say that first the armed military was the DSS, later it was released. Eventually, it's difficult to actually know who is saying what at what particular times. Who is in control, who gave that order for shooting or their presence even. And then when it comes to the issue of the reports proper, what the due process, was it followed, is it being followed? And a year later, what are our roads like? These incidents that it was a build-up to the NSAS protests, are they still being witnessed? Is it still occurring? The police still involved in brutality? Just last week, the IG came up to say that the average policeman does not have a decent accommodation, housing over his head. And the recommendations include reforms, robust reforms for the police force. Are all of these being taken care of? Most importantly, violation of rights and brutality and justice for the victims. How well have we fared? This will be the cruise of our discussion in the next 25 minutes. And we have in the studio joining us Patrick Edema, a journalist and social affairs analyst. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Christy. Good morning to Nigerians.
Joining him nonetheless is Mr. Fisher Ogugu. He is a public educator. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Data. Good morning, everyone.
So I'll start with you, Patrick. Looking at, let's see how you've sized the position of the federal government on the report submitted thus far.
You see, it's quite unfortunate that the federal government has to take that position, especially the Lagos toll gates, because of all the recommendations, is the Lagos toll gates in inverted commas now massacre that is contentious. And
Lekki toll gates.
Yes. Don't forget that of all the recommendations, the Lagos State government said about 14 of them are not within its purview, but within the purview of the federal government. Don't also forget that these panels were at the instance of the federal government that mandated states to constitute panels of inquiries into the NSAS, particularly to look at issues of brutality, and inhuman treatment by the police force. And these were the issues that led to the establishment of these panels. And not all the 36 states did it. Only 28 states in the federation did that. And some are yet to even submit their final report. Maybe preliminary reports have been submitted by some of them. But you see, don't forget that even before the white paper on the Lagos State government white paper, because for every panel of inquiry, there must always be a white paper. What is the white paper? The white paper is the position of government on the issues or recommendations by the panels, so that the government will not, accept hook, line, and sinker every recommendation by the panel. So if there are some that are not, maybe if the panel has wandered off its terms of reference, the government that set it up has the responsibility to also take a position on that. So, but looking at the position of the federal government, how can you now reject a recommendation that you give a mandate to do, especially when there are evidence that these things actually happened, and then you turn around to say that you reject that particular recommendation? You see, why I'm not surprised is this. Recall too that when the governors of Niger Delta went to the presidency, that they demand an audit of the NDDC in order to reposition it for optimal performance. After the exercise is done, till date, the federal government has refused to inaugurate the board of NDDC. So it is not strange. The government can tell you something today, tomorrow they will do another. So for me, the facts are already there in the public. That they rejected it does not in any way invalidate what is already in the public domain.
All right. Thank you very much. And when we talk about rejection as a position of the federal government on the judicial panel reports, and with you now, Mr. Fisher Ogugu, these reports, like he said, we had incidentally a discourse earlier in this forum where legal practitioners said that these panels constituted, like Mr. Edema rightly cited, were first of all at the instance of the federal government itself, but that they were men, or you have men and women drawn from the legal profession who headed each of them, and so it will be almost illegal for a white paper committee to review what people that it's like a court of appeal taking a stance, giving a judgment, and then asking the High Court or something to review it. It's very similar to that it is just not a constitutional, so to speak. When we look at what the federal government, for instance, the number of times that the Honorable Minister for Information had spoken about this, Lai Mohammed, he fingered quite a number of discrepancies or irregularities, as it were, in the reports of this panel. He talked about evidence. That same evidence, quote and unquote, like he said, to massacre, the Honorable Minister Lai Mohammed has said that it was a massacre without dead bodies. Now we have heard people online, we've seen them live, we've seen relatives of those persons who are said to have been killed, coming up to talk, to say that even some of the corpses, they alleged, have been taken by security operatives. In furthering this conversation, Mr. Fisher, to what extent do you think that Nigeria would get justice served on the account of this NSAS fallout?
Well, thank you very much. You see, like you said, this Nigeria we are. Whatever thing that goes on in this country, when you go out, you find out the other side, the reverse is the case. Before this panel is being set up, there is this organization, Human Rights, they even came up with their own report that the police, or rather the army, they are responsible for the death of those people that they kill in that target. And Lai Mohammed, being information minister of this great country, denies it, that there is nothing like that. There was no killing, there was not just nothing like that. And what do you expect from Lai Mohammed? He's a minister of information. He had to defend, his country by telling lies. And everybody knows that.
Is that the role of Minister of Information to defend the country by telling lies?
Oh, of course, of course. What do you expect from him now? Will he say that the report of the human rights that is correct? You know what it means if you say that if you say come to the what
is
is
it? Point when he says that they didn't see corpses.
What do you expect from him? Even if there are dead bodies in that place, they be moved away. He will deny it, so that the country will not be implicated by the World Organization or UN. So that is just his job, trying to so that people will say, right, the man is doing well by telling lies, so that the country that they came from will not be implicated. But NSAS report, like we always say, that is something that we must visit. We've seen a lot of reports in this country that when you bring them out, they hardly implement the report that the people gives. They want to do what is in their mind. So I'm not surprised that this report that they've submitted, it will die away. By the 2023, it just nothing will happen. Just nothing will just happen, and we just sweeping everything on the carpet like that. On the year we run like that, by next year we're already preparing for 2003 election. What do you expect? You want them to go and visit the report? I tell you, that report will not see the light of the day.
Instead, the report will not see the light of the day. CDS reacting to this, talking about Chief of Defense Staff, General Lakirabo, has said that it is only a white paper that can confirm this Lekki killings, irrespective of the fact that we had relatives go testify, we have had evidences. There are critics who have said that Mr. President and via the Honorable Minister of Information and so many others who have spoken and their position on these judicial panel reports seem not to be at tandem with democratic tenets. And we are in a democracy. In fact, it's a country that is celebrating unbroken chain of democracy. What statement will this make for our nation looking at the future? But before you go to the future, presently, would you say that it's been of any impact? Stop talking about the fact that we came out, when we say we, the citizens came out at this judicial panel of inquiry to speak. They had freedom of expression, for instance. But has that stopped police brutality? Has it stopped or engendered people to start doing the right thing on the road? Just last week, the IG had said that, yes, people were brutalized and this and that and about that. The average Nigerian policeman is even, quote unquote, brutalized in respect of housing, which is accommodation, respect of the pay he takes home, his take-home pay. How can you correlate the impact of these protests, the reports, reactions, and what is happening now?
Well, let me start from the rear. Obviously, there's serious, even the reforms that Mr. President initiated, there's actually not much I've been seeing. One of the, you can imagine the appointment of the last IG by this current IG by the president. The police law, the new law has already prescribed the number of years you should have as a DIG or as an AIG, as it were, before you can emerge as IGP. But the sitting president, what he did was to select what he wanted and abandon that relevant clause. So when you now see a younger person rising above a senior officer to head the force, that alone is even causing an internal crisis of confidence, internal crisis among the rank and file of the police force. So the federal government has not been wholesale in actually reforming. Go to police college in Ikeja and see the rot, see the decay. So the psyche of the average policeman has been configured to brutalize the average Nigerian on the street because of what they are going through. Go to there was time I did a special report. When you look at how much goes to a divisional police headquarters in this country, you will cry for this nation. You will cry. There are times what goes to the from the police budget when you look at what comes to the DPO to run the division for a month, you will know that we are just joking as a nation. But when the CDF was speaking, you see what they are trying to avoid. Don't forget, when Anthony Blinken came, he said that the US government will not hesitate to wield the big stick for any nation that violates human rights. And there's what, in the US, they have what they call the laity law. The lay law. The lay law actually prohibits the US government from selling arms or for supporting countries that are facing whether insurgency or any kind of revolt, especially when they are known to be violating human rights. And so what the federal government is trying to avoid is a situation where the US, because as a powerful nation, can also influence other countries not to sell arms, not to deal with Nigeria because of its human rights records. And that's what they are trying to. Otherwise, these people who appeared before the panel, even there were some of the lawyers who were on that at that Lagos toll gate, Lekki toll gate, who saw what happened. Even the presidency issued a statement actually sympathizing with families of those who died in that attack. So it's just playing the ostrich, and it will not serve us, because if the federal government is sincere in addressing the reasons that gave birth to the establishment of this panel, then the position it has taken on the Lekki toll gate is very, very worrisome, and it shows too well that they are not ready to address the issues. The protesters, apart from the fact that some recommendation, in fact, the state governments, in all fairness to them, they are not even supposed to pay money or compensation. It is the federal government that should even pay those compensations. But out of their own magnanimity, that's okay, these things occurred in their own states. And what do we do to foster unity, to the cohesion, and to carry people along? It's okay, we are going to pay, like in Delta, for example. Delta approved about 102 million to pay compensation to families. I know of 2 families that lost 5 persons. The panel was able to establish the culpability of those involved in that killing.
Okay. Just because of time constraint, Mr. Edema. Now, I come to you, Mr. Fisher Ogugu. Now, we are celebrating democracy on Lukun, as it were. And then we're talking about government not doing the due process. And Mr. Edema has said that the police psyche is so programmed, as it were, for extortion, for brutality, just because they are not getting what's due them. One wonders, though, that year in, year out, we have budgetary allocations. When you talk about the police barracks, he gave an example of one, but I think if you go all around, you would see one reason or the other to support what the IGP has said, as to say there is no decent accommodation. There are those vehicles, the drivers of job satisfaction that would make things of brutality be history, are just still not on the ground. But most importantly, this is the end of the year, and then the Christmas season and all that. They are back on the road. Nobody has sent them off anyway, but they are back to do their jobs. Are they doing their jobs? If no, how can the average Nigerian, this is because when you talk about the governors ought not to be culpable, they are the chief security officers of their states. Are we waiting for the panel report's implementation for what we are seeing on the road right now to be rectified, or what?
No, you see, when you begin to talk about police barracks are not being refurbished, that's why they are coming out.
One of the reasons they are not satisfied,
that shouldn't be a reason at all for police to come out and begin to extort money from people. That is not a reason at all. That's not a reason at all. Let me tell you, Nigeria police, even if you pay them 1 million naira, they can't do without coming road to collect money from people.
What's the reason?
The reason because that is their daily income. It's just like Osusa, as I would put it, because the money you pay them, that 1 million is not enough. Without that money they are collecting, it's just like no life for them. They have no discipline at all in the police force. In the police force, you won't compare the police with the army. You know, if you ask most people now who have no job, young people who have no job, which of the force do you want to join? Some of them will tell you they want to join police. The reason is because they want to come to road by the time they join the police. But why some will say they want to join the army because of the discipline that the army has. You know, you join the army, if you are caught taking, there's not even a chance for you to come to the road and collect money. No, but when you, excuse me,
what we have seen in recent times, you know, is purely out the opposite of what you're saying.
Christy, if you go to these roadblocks on this our
link road,
road. Or go to the Ekuabrak from Ekuru, where you have military people who are mounting roadblocks. You know, they put some barriers on the highways. All the articulated vehicles that are going,
whether you are carrying diesel
or you will need to go there. I'm talking about what I've seen. They collect money. In fact, there was a report from the southeast, from Niger Delta, where over 78 billion naira was collected in bribe money from people who are plying the road. And this is not just the police alone, it's a combination of the armed forces. So when you say that you see the issue of corruption.
He's talking about lack of discipline.
No, but you know that corruption,
indecent housing or whatever.
Yes, corruption. But it's not a justifiable reason for the police, as it were, because not all the policemen. We have some policemen who are well behaved, who are disciplined. We can give it to them. But there are some who are the bad eggs, who are the ones actually discrediting the police force. Because the Nigerian police are working under the condition they are working.
See, let me tell you, that, like I said, that is not an issue. So the discipline has to start from the top. You can disguise yourself if really you want to flush out the bad eggs from the police or from any force. You can disguise yourself and be on the road. You can take a public transport. Do you understand? You can take and begin to see
monitoring.
Yes, those who are the bad people in the force, and flush them out. Without that, because you've seen, I've listened to many police officers, IG retired senior officers, you know, on television, that they say they confirm that they are bad. Do you understand me? But when you were there, when you were assisted, what did you do? Now that you've retired, you are not saying that you are bad. So that is, if the discipline does not start from the top, there is no way that the police force or any force can be screened with bad eggs. It's not possible.
All right, thank you.
They are all bad.
We are being told to wind this up, but when you talk about going to monitor, as it were, supervision, effective supervision, the question would be, because for those who are on the road, the question would be that there are allegations of kickbacks, that these persons on the road are not just there by themselves. They have targets they have to meet.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
They are going to monitor the monitors. They in 1 minute.
Let me tell you, the truth is, you cannot isolate the police, as it were. It's a virus that has eaten the system. So the issue of corruption, but I don't want us to lose track of the issue, because the panels, all the reports of the panel indicted the police officers who actually inflicted on us and killed innocent Nigerians simply because either they refuse to give you 20 naira or 20 naira or what. So I believe that going forward, the federal government, the state government, and all stakeholders, they must do the needful to reinvent this country so that the police, like what we see abroad, that are so friendly, before they will even get information from you, will not know.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Mr. Gugu, less than a minute now. How would you wind this up?
Well,
the panel
the panel reports, let the federal government implement what they be given to.
All right.
That's just all I have.
Thank you very much, and that's the much we'll be taking. Our time is fast spent. We've been looking at the fallout of the judicial panel reports. as a result of the NSAS protests and what can be done. Our guest here has said that they join voices to those of the UN, the Amnesty International, the US Civil Liberties Organization, and lots more to say that this report must be implemented because things were evidenced. Witnesses gave evidences, and then we still have what the Constitution says in account of brutality, killings, and then most importantly that the culprits were identified. They have names, they have tags, and they have videos and so much more. They said that the issue of poor remuneration or indecent housing is not enough. There's not justifiable reason for Nigerian police not to be productive or follow the due process. That Nigeria as a country needs to reinvent what she terms the police force. And when it comes to the army, they shouldn't even be on the road doing the civil missions that is purely for the police force. We'd like to thank you, Mr. Patrick Edema, a journalist, and Mr. Fisher, who is a public educator. Gentlemen, many thanks for your time.
It's my pleasure.
I'd like you to know that the program Political Arena comes up again on Wednesday at 10 a.m. God willing. You can also join us, of course, at dbsori.com. You can follow us on YouTube for those editions you've missed. But most importantly, it runs 3 times a week. Join us Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. Christy Jahoyan quits my name on behalf of the producer today, Grace Mato, saying that Nigeria can only get better. You and I need to do it right. See you next time. Good morning.